Good evening, and welcome back to the next episode, being episode 4 of Spooky Town Tales. It's me, your host, Morgan, and joining me once again, I have, in the spooky seats, Sir James Bradley Bug, but prefers to go by Jeremy.
Not very nice. Don't use my official name. Jeez.
Gee willikers, you're not in trouble, it's okay.
I feel like it, though.
Use my full name, even my middle name.
Yeah, must have done something wrong.
Jimmy's back, and I'm pleased to say he's actually agreed to be a regular part of this podcast, whether he wants to or not. We haven't talked about it. He's just loading this right now.
Under the bus. There you go.
How do you feel?
It's honoured. Absolutely honoured.
That's great. Welcome back. Welcome back. Now, if you hear noises in the background, we are having to record this at an earlier hour to our normal recording time, as we have had a sick little girl. And so my whole schedule's out of whack. I, too, am not 100%, as you can hear in my voice, if I sound a little bit like... What are the girls off... Patty and Thelma?
Yeah,
Selma?
I think so.
Patsy? Patty and Thelma?
I can't remember.
I don't know. But if I start to sound like them, that's why. So I might fade as the episode progresses, but
Hold in as long as you can.
I'll give it a red hot go. So welcome back to another episode. Thank you for your continued support and for tuning in each week for the creepy tales that I am collecting for you. Big thank you to all of you for your feedback yet again. It's brilliant. And let me know how, those of you that are listening on Podbean and YouTube, let me know how it's going. And if it works well for you, I'd love your feedback on anything I can do to make it easier for you or anything like that. Please let me know. And because this is a non-profit, independent little podcast, all that I need for you to do for me is like and share and get back to me, give me some more stories or your feedback on what your favourite stories are. I'd love you to recommend our little show to a mate that you think might like it. These are the ways you can help me out to keep me motivated to keep doing this, because I absolutely love it. It is a massive undertaking, but I do absolutely friggin' love it. It's great.
Just get the word out there.
Yeah, just spread the word or just send me stories. I don't care, even if it's about a weirdo in your town. I'd love to hear about it. I don't have to mention names. Just strange stories. Because I tell you what, there's some good ones out there. I've still got heaps for you.
Plenty of
They're
them.
coming in thick and fast, but it is a lot of work for me to put all these together into episodes for you. But yes, that's how you can help me. Like and share and pass the word. And on that note, word has spread, and I got a little phone call from the ABC last week who have asked me to come in for an interview this weekend.
Yay!
Yay! That's right. I don't know how they've heard from me, but whoever it was that spread the word, thank you. I appreciate it. So tune in, ABC Morning Show on Saturday from 8:30 to 9. I'm not sure the exact time. And this little lady will be on your airwaves there too. You can't get away from me.
Nah.
No, I'm like the plague. To put it nicely. So much self-respect. Anyway, on that note, I've got a pretty interesting fact here just to kick off the show for you.
Yes.
Did you know that boo is Latin for I'm screaming?
No.
Why don't ghosts speak Latin, you ask? Because it's a dead language.
Oh!
Oh yeah, who's the dad now?
Got it.
Yep. Cop that. Cop that. Yes, you can share that joke.
Oh.
I'll allow it. Go for it. Now tonight we're going to be talking about different theories behind varying types of hauntings.
Yeah.
Because in my full 34 years, my long years, I've collected...
You don't have long ears.
Yeah, they're actually abnormally small for my head. Anyway, I'll keep on track here, Jimmy. God. I have compiled a fair bit of information in this buff head of mine regarding different theories behind hauntings and types of hauntings and the ideas behind what they are, what causes them, etc., etc. So we're going to be talking about that and having some stories to back up said theories that perhaps might, indicate this is why they think this.
Proof to the theory.
Proof to the theories. That's what we're all about. That's what we're all about here at Spooky Town Tales. Now remember, send me your stories, because I want to hear them. And I'm not going to judge. I mean, look at me. You've seen my face. What is it that Vince Noir says? It's a brass band under a wig. Who am I to judge anyone? So send them on in.
Come on, you've got a pretty face.
Oh, thanks. Oh, shucks. Hang on, we might have to pause for a minute. We'll stop flirting and making you feel sick and actually do what we're here to do and start the show. Sorry, guys. Are you comfortable? Have you got your drink? Are the lights off? Candle lit? Are you ready? Are you ready to get spooked? Did you like that one?
That was a good one.
That's a good one. Are you scared yet? Get ready. Are you trembling?
I'm scared.
Right. To begin with, on my research of Donnybrook, our wee town of Donnybrook, I discovered that the town had many false starts, and it actually took well and truly into the 1900s, even after the World War II, before the town actually properly started becoming a settled little town. But there were murders, there were strange suicides, there was all kinds of bizarro things that went on during that big window of time. And one of the murders that took place was of a lovely man who was a Chinese market gardener, and he supplied all the fruit and vegetables for the town. He was very well loved. People loved him. He was really good at what he did, and considering how rough the terrain was and how hard it was to get anything happening regards farming around here, hence it turned to apples in the end. But there was other attempts at many different things, and a lot of failed attempts, mainly due to having to clear the forests and all that. It was a lot of
Garbage
work.
terrain. And
Really, really hard work. So this lovely man, his name was Yet, was well loved, and he was in his, so the story goes, was his cabbage patch, but I've also been told it was his potato patch. Either way, he was in his garden doing what he did best.
Veggie garden.
He was in the
Let's just
veggie
say
garden.
He was in his veggie garden.
He was in the winter vegetables, doing his, doing his work, and a young, let's just call him jerk face, came on his property and shot him in the back of the head.
Pretty jerky move.
Total jerky move.
Yep.
Shot him in the back of the head, and he died right there in the veggie garden. And it was for £5 in the end. That's what he took from him. Robbed him.
Wow.
£5. And the little shit got off as well. So he went to trial, but he got off for the murder. So there's this poor, lovely man who was supplying all this beautiful food for the community, gets shot in his cabbage and potato patch. To make things even worse, he's in an unmarked grave in the Donnybrook Cemetery. It's like a pile of sand in the corner. There's no tombstone, there's no cross. Everyone knows that's where he is.
Yeah.
But even after all this time, there's
Still
nothing.
there.
There's a mound of sand. So this poor bloke, we went looking for it and I didn't know where it was.
Yeah.
So we were wandering. Because it's unmarked, and there's several unmarked. Like, it's quite a creepy little cemetery we've got here.
It'd be interesting to see what the other ones are. If there are any
Yeah.
others coincide.
Just new ones.
Just random.
Someone's hiding their bodies there. That's where old creep. That's a creepy George hides his body. That's where all the backpackers are buried. Yeah, just don't talk about it. Yes, just joking. There is no. Well, from what we know.
From what we know.
What we know, there's no.
Yeah.
Sorry, George.
Gave away me secret.
I know. But anyway, back to the coincidence. So when I was interviewing a person regarding their stories, the first story he told me about was his dad's farm.
Yeah.
And guess what farm it was? What land it was?
Which?
It was the land that belonged to Ariette, where he used to farm. And the ghost was none other than...
No way.
Yes.
Really?
Yep. So they see him in the fields, they see him in the house. I'm going to read you some accounts just now.
Yeah.
But I was desperately trying to find information on where he was, like where his farm was, when I read this. And then one of the
It's
first
just
stories I came across was his story. So it needs to be told. Obviously, the universe
Says tell this one.
has tell this tale because this poor guy needs to, people need to know his story. So basically, on the property, and there's several people living on the property, so it's 4 generations from what I believe. So there's the great-grandparents, the grandparents, and then there's my friend and his kids as well.
Right.
But they're now living in a different house. But for a period there was like 4 generations living on the property.
Well,
So there's 2 houses on the property, and one of the houses was split, so there was the great-grandparents in one half and then Will and his children in the other half. The lounge room in the house gave everyone the creeps. It just had a funny feeling about it.
yeah.
And one day, Ella, who's the daughter, was in her room with her friend, and they both got up to leave the room. And as they were both going out of her room at the same time, they saw a black shadow walk directly past them, like right in front of them. And then as it walked off to the right, it disappeared halfway down the hall, right where the lounge room was.
Yeah.
So it was quite a short shadow,
Yeah.
but they both... She said that they both just ran outside and sat on the trampoline and just stared at the door, like thinking, it's going to come out. But absolutely scared the crap out of them, but also confirmed, okay, that's why I feel creepy. There's someone there.
Yeah.
Now, it wasn't just her. So I think there was every single person that's lived on the property has seen this little man walking around. Completely doesn't interact, doesn't seem to see anyone,
Yeah.
just is walking around the houses. So
His own
the mum has regularly seen the short black shadow wandering through the house. When she's doing washing or in the kitchen or whatever, she will see it quite often.
Is it an old house? Like, have they told you if the house is?
The
quite
house
old,
isn't
or
that old, it's the
just the land that it's on? Yeah.
And I'm guessing that maybe that he's just wandering around doing his gardening.
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
where,
Like
obviously
his
there's
routine
certain-
was?
which gets me onto the idea. I'll just read a few more of
Yeah, sorry.
the accounts of him. So, yeah, the mum has seen him in the fields, the dad's seen him in the fields, Will's seen him, the great-grandparents, everyone has seen him. There's visitors to the farm have asked who he was. So it's not just as a shadow, people have actually seen
Yeah, right.
this man working.
Wow.
Yeah. Will, when he sat in the lounge room, he said he would very often see him walk past the door,
Yeah.
stop, look in, and then just go back and walk the other way. So it wasn't just like a passing, like something out the corner of your eye. He would
Yeah.
regularly see something stop, turn, and then go back.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So this is his farm. This is
Yeah.
Ariette's farm. So,
So
I mean, given the way he died,
Yeah.
he couldn't have even... his back was turned. He shot in the back of the head.
Yeah.
Who knows if he even knew the guy was there?
Yeah. Exactly. exactly.
So he would be completely, like, given the theory of a lot of residual hauntings, it's like a loop. So they're replaying what they normally would do.
Yeah.
And there's also a theory of these types of hauntings occurring when someone isn't aware that they're actually dead.
Okay.
So that plays into this, and I'll read you a little bit about this. Also, there's a theory. I read this one recently, and this one I really, really do find is quite plausible.
Right.
But then again, you're welcome to your own opinion.
Yeah.
So this is just my opinion. So this theory is called the stone tape theory. Have you heard of this
No,
before?
not at all.
Okay, well, the stone tape theory is a speculation that ghosts and hauntings are similar to tape recordings. So they leave that the mental impression during an emotional or traumatic event can be projected in the form of energy and recorded into items, such as rocks, trees, that sort of a thing.
Yeah.
So like the energy is absorbed into something.
Yeah.
And then it sort of replays. So
Well, that definitely ties in with this one.
yeah. Now, the reason why I believe this is the amount of stories I've been reading of late of haunted forests and woods where there have been battles and hangings and suicides and all of this sort of thing.
Yeah.
There seems to be a large amount of activity in these areas, and you can't help but think if maybe wood and stone and things like that, being a living thing, are able to absorb energy from things when they die.
Yeah. Especially if it's under traumatic circumstances. Like you're saying, it's not normally under just an everyday cycle. It's
Yeah.
But interesting.
Yeah. And I mean, I've had this discussion with people before, because I have many conversations with skeptics about these sorts of things, because I'm very open-minded. I'm not one to jump straight to, oh yes, it's definitely paranormal. But the example that I give is someone who is able to pick up on energy. I'm a bit spooky.
Yeah.
Sometimes I can know people's feelings and thoughts before they open their mouth.
I've seen you do it a billion times.
And I'm quite often able to read things about people I've just met and I've never even spoken to them.
Yep.
I've had this quite often. So I'm one of these people that's very open to energy. I can pick up on it. I'm not someone who claims to be a psychic or a medium or any of that crap. But I do believe that some people are more able to feel these things and sense these things.
Yeah.
And I really, really do believe, regarding energy, that we're all giving it off constantly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not so much it has to be a death,
Yeah.
but I think you could, as a living person, you can leave energy in a house, in a room, in an item, like in a coat, in a jacket.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all gone to houses where a couple have had a massive fight,
Yeah. Yeah.
and say one's in the kitchen and one's in the other room. They smile and greet you like normal, but you just feel, you can feel it.
Yeah.
You walk in, you're like, holy crap, something's gone down in here.
Yeah.
You can feel it. So that's what I ask skeptics to just consider.
Yeah.
Is that you're able to sense this, and they might say, oh, it's body language. I'm like, but
There's something else.
okay, what if they're happy as Larry, or their back's to you and you can't even see their face, but you feel it anyway? Like it is something that you can't really deny it. Energy exists. People give it off all the time. We've got electric pulses going right through our body as we speak. That's how we live. That's how we move.
Yeah.
So that, in my opinion, gives credit to this theory that energy can imprint onto objects.
Yeah.
Or absorb something. Same as with when you go up shopping and you buy something like an old suit,
Yeah.
and then something's missing in your house. It
It's true.
attaches to things.
No, I can see that. That makes sense.
Yeah. So basically, to summarise for those of you out there that aren't familiar with the theory of a residual haunting is a haunting that is said to be an activity that happens, an occurrence that happens repeatedly. So it's the same thing.
Yeah.
So say you hear the same noise every day in the same area of the house, or you see the same funny light anomaly in the same section of the house at the same time.
One of them.
A what?
A recurring noise.
Which one?
The one out the front.
Yeah.
It's quite weird.
Yeah, we've got we used to have a sliding door. Is that the one you
Yeah,
mean?
the sliding door. We used to have one out the front, which is aluminium noise, like just a
Slide.
ticking
Yeah.
that you'd hear whenever the wind blew.
Yep. That door's gone. It's now a big, heavy wooden door, but we still hear the ticking of the aluminium door.
Which is not explainable.
Yeah, we've gone out and looked to try and find what's making the noise.
Yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be a ghost. This is another thing. It plays into the theory of energy and how there could be a science behind it that we don't quite understand yet. There are tons of scientists researching this exact thing every day.
Yeah.
Ones that are brave enough.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to upset the man. but there are very, very clever minds at work trying to understand. I mean, recently there was astrophysicists that have theorised that the universe has its own consciousness now.
Yeah.
That's a big one. We won't open that can of worms.
That's a big rabbit hole.
That's a big rabbit hole. But look into it if you like that sort of thing, which I do. I love deep diving into that rabbit hole. Check it out, because they do. They believe they have proof the universe has consciousness. I mean, why wouldn't it?
Yeah, I know.
So much we don't understand. Oh my God, existential crisis is bubbling up inside of me. Yes, so a residual haunting plays like a videotape. So it's the same things that are happening over and over, seemingly harmless, it doesn't affect you, it doesn't interact with you.
Yep.
So as opposed to the intelligent haunting. Now these ones are ones that actually will interact with you or they're seemingly trying to contact you or interfere with you in some way. So the theories behind it is that they're not aware that they're dead. That's the first theory. So why these things happen. Another one, people believe it's loved ones sticking around to protect ones that are still here. Or have a message to deliver. That's another theory. They could have a strong connection to a place. So if it's like an ancestral home, like a castle and things like that, you know, you hear about the lords and
still being
ladies of castles still roaming the halls, whether it be true or not. It could also be that they're scared of the next step. I mean, no one really knows what happens.
Of course.
When the lights go
You're
out.
already scared generally of the next step.
Yeah, everyone's scared of everything. Yeah, now signs. Here we go. I'm here to help you. This is your public service announcement. Signs of an intelligent haunting. You may have cold chills, goosebumps, feeling of uneasiness. You may also witness attempts to communicate, so you may hear voices or sounds in your house, like someone's talking or calling out to you. That could be something trying to interact with you.
Yeah.
Complications with electricity. There could be an energy interfering with it. Now, I had a friend who's a skeptic message recently saying she was having very strange things happening with her lights that her and her husband can't figure out. And so she messaged me and I'm like, ooh, sounds like you've got a little visitor, friend. So yes, that is quite a common thing. I've had it many times when there's been weird stuff going on. The lights.
Turn off street lights.
I turn off street. Lights do weird things, or things turn on and off by themselves. There's tons of stories about that.
Yeah.
Objects disappearing and moving without you touching them. That's another one.
Yep.
You know, when you can't find something and then you looked everywhere and then, wow, there it is.
Right where you had just
I'd
looked.
looked several times. That's another indication that something's trying to get your attention. And the other is unusual sounds. So, like, jangle of chains. Boo.
All the Hollywood
All
stuff.
those things might mean you got an intelligent haunting in your house.
Yeah.
Either that or just a creeper that likes to pretend to be a ghost. Anyway, so there you go. So if you have ticked at least two of these 5 things,
Don't go to section 6. Call someone straight away.
Call me on 555. I'll get rid of your ghosts. 300. No, don't call me. You'll be right.
Your number anyway,
Just buy some sage. It's not your real number. Don't worry. Message me. I might be able to help. I don't know. Or recommend you to a shaman. I don't know. Anyway, let's have a story now that I've given you all those factoids.
Yep.
Now, I've had a follow-up from a previous story, which I featured on episode 1, from the beautiful Catherine Rose. And it was she's given me a bit more info into the mirror incident.
Yeah.
So remember we talked about a ball of energy shot out of a mirror? Well, she's given me more details.
Okay.
So, are you ready?
Yep.
Okay. So, the house where it happened was an old miner's cottage in Newcastle. where the officials lived back in the 1800s. My parents and I were visiting a friend who owned it. The house was lovely and light-filled and had been renovated, so it didn't have a spooky vibe at all. After lunch, Mum said, "Kath, come look in this room," because Mum and I share an interest in renovation. I figured she wanted to show me a spruced-up space. She and her friend pointed at the door and said, "Go in there and let us know what you think." I thought nothing of it. Opened the door, took one step inside and saw nothing, just a tiny room with a mirror facing me on the opposite wall and a mattress leaning up against the another wall. I was confused and I started to say, "What am I meant to be looking at?" And I felt and saw that basketball-sized translucent ball rush out of the mirror, and I felt myself be pushed violently outside the room. I also sensed this feeling of "you don't belong here." The weirdest thing was, when I turned around, Mum and her friend had disappeared. I looked down the hallway and saw they were out in the garden looking at flowers. So in what felt like seconds to me, must have been at least 5 minutes, if they'd already made it out into the garden. It was the weirdest thing. I went out to the garden and told them what happened, and Mum felt terrible. She said she'd only had a weird vibe passing the door, but she didn't expect something to actually happen to me. Her friend admitted she never went into the room, and her dog frequently peed outside the door. Weeks later, she called us up with an update. She'd asked an Indigenous healer to come around to help with something strange, but she didn't say what or where it was. He walked down the hallway and stood outside the spooky room. He told her there weren't any spirits in there, but there was residual negative energy from something that happened in the room that shouldn't have happened. He performed a cleansing ritual, and then she put in a skylight, and ever since the dog has been happy to go into the room and she's been able to use the space. Super creepy side note from Wikipedia, Newcastle gained a reputation as a hellhole, as it was the place where the most dangerous convicts were sent to dig coal mines as harsh punishment for their crimes.
Whoa.
So that's pretty cool. So he had no idea of the room, but he knew the room.
That's crazy.
Another confirmation of my theory about energy.
Yep.
So I'm not saying energy as in, things in sheets hanging out going, ooh, trying to ski. I just think that we all give off and dump. We dump energy.
Absolutely.
And people who are empathic, most of you probably understand what an empath is, or empathic, they're people that are more sensitive to other people's energy. So they feel exhausted around intense people, and people that will suck your energy from you.
Yep.
This is another example of that. So he was aware of the negative energy, and that's what I believe when you have these horrid hauntings. They're always in houses where something yucky's happened.
Yeah, yep.
And I've got a little tip-off today, and I'm hoping I can get some more information about it. There was a house where there was a suicide, and there was some very violent things occurring by unseen forces in that house.
Wow.
Yeah. Negative energy.
Yep.
It's no good, man.
It's not good for you.
It's not good at all. So that was pretty great. Thank you for the follow-up, Catherine.
That's awesome.
It's good to hear more info about it, and my goodness, that's so bizarre that you lost time.
That I find
that's
so
scary and alarming.
Cool, but it's, like to not be able to pick up when someone's completely left.
Yes, and you were literally they're right behind you, you were talking to them, and then they've gone. That's full on.
That's crazy.
Which brings me to another theory of hauntings, which is what this episode's about. Forgive my ramblings.
They're good.
Another parapsychologist, as they're called, has theorised that it's not so much that we're seeing ghosts, but that there are lapses in time.
Yeah.
And that there's little ripples, or there's moments where we're able to see through into another time.
Yeah.
Because time itself, again, I'm getting pretty heavy on tonight's episode.
Take that, everyone.
Cop this. Are you ready for an existential crisis? Because I'm going to give you one. So time is only linear because we've made it that way. So man created time as a measurable thing, as a way of controlling everything. That's what men do. Men, as I'm talking about the race, I'm not specifying the sex, I'm not being sexist. Humans like to be able to put everything in a tidy little neat compartment and be able to have control of it. Yep. So humans created time, the concept of time.
Yep.
And so we can measure it and we can control it and we can say, well, this is when I'm free and that's when I'm not free on this day and time and this is when that needs to be done by this, and it's all a big control thing. Technically, time could be any form.
Yeah.
We don't know. No one knows. No one knows if we're going backwards, forwards. We're just doing what we do.
Yep.
So his theory is that there are multiple times going on at once.
Mm-hmm.
And so the one that we're aware of, that we've come from this date, we were born on this date to this date.
To now, yep.
We don't know what's happened from before that, but he's of the opinion that he had a weird... he researches incidents of unexplained things that all relate back to his theory, where he's had one himself.
Yeah.
Where he has thought he was experiencing a full-body apparition, but the apparition was more frightened of him than he was, and acted as if he was a ghost.
Whoa.
So he reacted. This thing he was communicating with it, he could hear this person who was sitting at a train station waiting for a train for his wife, and this guy was in his house. He was in his house, and he was like, what? What do you mean the train? So it was very confusing, but he sounds like a nut job. He's not a nut job, though, I assure you.
Yeah, yeah.
He's had this, several people have had this, and it turns out that
That'd be super weird.
that particular train and area and man was real, and it wasn't just like a random thought.
Yeah.
It was all happening, just
at
like...
the same time.
Yeah.
Well,
technically.
what we call time.
Yeah, what we call time. That's right. Yeah, so it's like you're getting little... Just to open a big can of worms here, I'm not saying that...
Big heavy night.
It's a big heavy night. I've been doing a lot of thinking about life. What is life? So anyway, that's just another theory that maybe it's not so much people seeing ghosts, but they're seeing through into something that's already happened, or something that's going to happen, or maybe we are able to...
Oh, it is happening, actually.
Actually happening. Maybe we can shift in and out of these little realms. I don't know. There's another theory.
Knows?
It's just another theory. It's not my own. It's a cool one, though. It's a cool concept.
Cool. Very cool.
To think this poor guy sitting waiting for his wife at the train station and has this man going, are you on the other side? Like trying to do, like those ghost shows where they're like, when did you die? What's your name? Knock 3 times if you're a ghost. Another cool little thing I found out, not ghost related, this one. Completely off topic, but I thought this was really cool.
Yeah.
They're recently in... Where am I? Let me get the name right so I don't stuff it up. Oh, where is it? Did I write it down? Siberia. There we go. A bloke called Pavel Efimov. Efimov?
Yeah.
Am I saying this right? I think he's Russian or whatever it is. I don't know. He came across a 40,000-year-old Ice Age wolf's head, perfectly preserved.
What?
Because, sadly, for those non-believers in global warming, the permafrost is already starting to melt.
Yeah.
So he found this perfectly preserved wolf's head from 40,000 years ago.
Whoa.
Like flesh, teeth, fur, everything.
Mm-hmm.
They're not sure whether it was cut off by hunters or whether it came off from expanding ice. So they're currently on a mission now to get funding to look for the rest of it.
Whoa.
Because it's the first ever
Yep.
of the Siberian wolves from this, I can't say this. Pleistocea wolf. Oh, I'm sorry about my pronunciation.
Better than I could have done.
So it's an ancient wolf from 40,000 years ago. It's the first one they've ever found intact, like this, in this good a nick.
Yeah.
So to give you a bit of perspective, a Siberian wolf's head's about 25 centimetres, normal. It's like a current wolf.
Yeah.
This head's just shy of 40 centimetres.
Whoa, that's twice the size.
It's nearly twice the size. It's a massive, big head. Now, the thing that makes it even more interesting is they have thought up until now that in this particular area, which is Yakutia, they didn't believe there was a man living in the area at that time.
Whoa, okay.
So for this head to have been removed by a hunter, which they're looking at the soft tissue damage and everything like that, from what they can see so far, it's looking more likely that it was removed by a tool, by either a sharp knife or an axe of some sort. But that blows the whole theory of there being humans in that particular part of the earth during that time. Wow. So there you go, something else to talk about.
That's pretty cool.
Very interesting.
Yeah, very
so they're hoping it will give them a bit more understanding of the evolution of the wolf.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
They've shrunk.
They've shrunk.
Clearly.
Who put them in the dryer? Global warming's what's done it. The earth is a giant tumble dryer and we've done it. It's our fault. Anyway. We'll stop with the doom and gloom and I'll get on to another story. Okay, forgive me if my voice crackles a little bit reading this. I am starting to fade, so bear with me. So I've got a story here that's called Stephen, and this is sent in by a previous, someone whose story I've read out previously, and she's wonderful. She sent me in several stories, so I really appreciate it, and this one's really cool. Stephen is my partner Josh's deceased brother. He committed suicide a few years ago. I never met him, as he was gone before I met my partner. They were close. Nobody saw it coming. When Stephen died, Josh had had a dream. Josh was in prison at this time, so he was cut off from his brother, in a way. He told Stephen that when he got out, they'd spend a lot more time together, and they'd be close again, and Stephen wanted that too. So Josh is asleep the night his brother commits suicide. He dreams he is Stephen. He is in his Nissan Steiger, his pride and joy, with his music blaring and the engine running. He's laid out all of his ID and his wallet on the dash. Then he wakes up to the guard saying he's got an urgent phone call. It's early morning, and this isn't usually the done thing in the prison world. He knows what he's seen is his brother dying. He takes the phone call. It's his mum in a bawling mess. Stephen is dead. Josh has always felt Stephen is with him. He can call on him, and he is there. Stephen likes hiding things around the house. I was looking for my hard drive one day. I knew I'd left it in my laptop bag, but it wasn't there. I searched the office, lounge room, dining table, everywhere I thought it could be. It was nowhere. Later that day, I was looking through my wardrobe when I found the hard drive underneath a pile of clothes. I told Josh, and he said, I see you've met Stephen. I met Stephen in a dream, not long after I met Josh. He wanted me to get in his car with him and go for a drive. I politely declined and said I'd get in Josh's car. When I woke, I told Josh and explained the car, and he said that sounded exactly like Stephen's car, which I'd never laid eyes on before. I didn't even know what a 1-800-SX was. That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
The best contact we've had with Stephen since his death took place around Halloween in 2017. The house we were in had a beautiful deck, and we'd spend many a night on it with friends having dinner and drinks. This one night around Halloween, Josh, my friends, Braden and Phoebe, and myself were having drinks after dinner and playing a good round of Cards Against Humanity with the stereo going in the background. Braden and I kept seeing someone darting around in the driveway out of the corner of our eyes. They were going from car to car. These were Josh's pride and joys, his Nissan 300 ZXs, 2 of them. Braden got fed up and went out there wielding an axe, telling the mother effer to come out and fight like a man. Of course, no one was there. Well, no earthly being. Suddenly, I hear the stereo volume dip, and Josh and Braden are wide-eyed. Josh looks at everyone and said, "Did you guys hear that?" Braden said, "You heard it too?" "What did you hear?" Josh asked. "Joshua David, you need to say something." Braden didn't know what Josh's middle name was.
Whoa.
"Joshua David James, you need to say something." That's what Josh heard. So they heard the same thing. But Josh heard the extra.
Yeah.
He heard the James as well. That was Stephen. Josh's family were having problems at the time. Stephen wanted Josh to fix it. He knew what it meant. That's when we realised the person walking around the cars was Stephen. He was checking out Josh's cars. Josh went over to the cars and talked to Stephen. Then Josh told him he had to go because he was freaking out our friends and that he could come back in the morning. So he did. Now we were drinking, but how does that explain Braden and Josh hearing the same thing? And Braden didn't know Josh's middle name at that time. I heard the volume dip, but Phoebe didn't. So all three of the 4 people heard the volume go down.
Yeah.
And 2 of the 4 people heard the exact sentence, Joshua, David, you need to say something.
Wow. That's crazy, man.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Very strange. Cool story, Alana.
Sorry.
Very cool story. Again, that plays into the intelligent haunting of the brother sticking around because he knows that the other brother needs him. Or he's got a job to do. He's got a job to do.
Yep.
So what's your theories, listeners, on hauntings and residual hauntings and intelligent hauntings? Because regards to the stone tape theory that we discussed earlier, I just was remembering there is a forest in Japan, the suicide forest. I think I told you about this.
You told me about this one.
Yeah. Now, they don't know why it is so popular to people going out there, but it is to the point that they've got special markers. They've put out propaganda throughout the trees in Japanese saying, you're loved, call us, I'll help you.
And you were saying there's patrols.
There's patrols. There are people hired there to find the bodies, basically.
Yeah.
And also they've got people out there that go out to try and talk people out of it. But there's some pull in this forest, some energy that draws people there. And that this massive, ridiculous high amount of people go in there for that. To the point that if you wanted to, you could go in there and find someone. Like that's people dare each other to do it and get heebie-jeebies,
man.
Big time. Very haunted.
Yeah.
Hey Jimmy.
Yeah.
What did the ghoul say to the vampire?
What?
You really suck.
Oh no.
Now after that perler of a joke, it's going to be pretty hard to follow up.
I got nothing.
I'm going to give you a little history lesson about a little place called Oakabella.
Oakabella.
Have you heard about Oakabella?
I've never heard of Oakabella.
Oakabella, or Oakabella Station, I believe it's called. Let me just make sure that's right. Homestead. Oakabella Homestead is up north.
Right.
Inland from Kalbarri.
No.
Now, was quite a touristy little hotspot for many years, purely for its ghosts.
Right.
Because it's very, very haunted, this place.
Yep.
So much so that they thought they'd capitalise on that, the previous owners, and that became the selling point.
It's a good idea.
You go there, not for the history, because it's a very old homestead, it was for the ghosts. So they tried this, but naturally, not really, especially a country like Australia, you have more luck in the UK or the US, but I mean, we're getting a bit less conservative, but poor buggers, so they marketed Oakabella Homestead as, come for the ghosts, and it just plummeted. Like, barely any people came. It's like, I don't want to see you guys. So it's had a big facelift by the new owner.
Right.
But I'm just going to give you a little bit of background about it, because it is very interesting. Just don't mind me rummaging to find. I've got about 80 bits of paper around me. I'm a fire hazard.
You are.
And there's a candle. I'm a goddamn fire hazard.
More dangerous than I thought.
Yeah, don't tell anyone. Don't call the fire department on me. I'm doing the best I can. Okay, so apparently this property's got a lot of bad history.
Juju.
Bad juju, because it's just a bit of a tragic joint.
Right.
So it was built in the 1850s. So it's between Geraldton and Northampton. Mm-hmm. It consists of several buildings, and there's a 13-room homestead with a 2-storey barn and stables. I mean, that recipe for disaster in those days. Yeah. 2-storey barn. There's always bad shit happens in the barns. And an external kitchen. And it was once a prosperous working property for early settlers. Yep. But there was a lot of hardships that befell the people that lived on the property. Mm-hmm. So in the early days in WA, there were no sealed roads and lack of communication, all sorts. There was crap communication. And there was a lot of bizarre incidents that happened on the property. There was a room, a bedroom, where apparently the window collapsed and it killed a 3-year-old.
Whoa.
So that was one of the weird accidents. An occupant maimed himself terribly with live dynamite. That was another one that happened on the property.
Yeah, that's not great.
Yeah. There's another room called George's room, which she opens. It's got a special key, a skeleton key for George's room. George accidentally killed himself while cleaning his gun. That's another one that happened. George, were you looking down the barrel, buddy? I shouldn't say that, it'll come and get me.
Not great.
Sorry to hear that, George.
No, it's just not what you do, though.
Very unfortunate. Just goes to show we've come a long way.
Yeah. We don't clean our guns pointed at our faces anymore.
Yeah, not recommended. Poor George. Now, where's my other page? Oh, no. Bear with me. Here it is. So naturally, that's just to name a few of the deaths.
Right.
There were several others. Just all kinds of, just shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
Kind of things. So it's so haunted they were having issues getting guests and sales. Yeah. People were avoiding it altogether. So now they've kind of rebranded it.
Uh-huh.
And now they're focusing on scenery and skylines and history and rebranding it basically. Like
history that's not dead.
Yeah. You come here and don't worry. We'll keep them, we'll tell them to leave you alone. I promise. So and apparently it's ongoing, like this bad luck or juju.
Yeah.
The girl that runs it now, I think her name's Loretta.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll find out. She says she feels a lot of rage on the property. Like, we're talking about energy. Coming back to it. See, everything comes full circle on this show. I've done my homework. I've made sure it all flows. So she feels a tremendous amount of, rage on the property. She's had tons of accidents.
Oh.
So, while she's been doing up the joint. She's broke her ankle in George's room.
Oof.
Yep. She was pulled off the ladder, she claims. So she was up the ladder painting it pink, painting the man's room pink, to make it a bit more cheery. But apparently that wasn't the thing to do because she felt something grab her and pull her off the ladder and she broke her ankle. A lot of people say they feel a tremendous amount of weight on the, heaviness.
Yeah.
But then there are other people that say that they could quite happily live there. So again, it boils down to those that are open, those that aren't. I probably couldn't live there.
No.
Yeah, it can be very confronting on the property. So if you're up that neck of the woods, it's very pretty. I've looked up the pictures. It is a beautiful place. And if you're someone that's not affected by this stuff, you should go check it out. And if you are someone that is affected by this stuff, you should go check it out. Have an adventure. Come on. Life is for living.
That's
there
right.
You go. So Okabella. That's another little joint in WA that we've got that's got quite a history.
Sounds very cool.
Now, speaking of different types of hauntings,
one
of the houses I lived in Como, in South Perth area.
So not the super duper spooky one.
Not the super duper spooky one. This is the one I lived with my brother, but he was barely there because he had a hot babe in Freo at the time. So I was there on my own a lot. And then in the end, I got my friend Annie to move in with me. So it was nice because it meant there was always someone else there.
Yeah.
Because when I first moved there was constant footsteps and things, and I put it down to being a young girl. I was 18 and I was a bit anxious and, living in this completely different... I'm from the northern suburbs. Here I am in Como. I've got to walk 2 Ks to one bus stop to get me to work, and then I've got to get... walk another direction. I felt like I was going to get lost all the time.
Yeah.
So it was one of those times in my life where I was already anxious and
being dumped in a spot.
I didn't really want to move there, but I was trying to help him out. And I mean, it worked out okay. I got my independence. I really wanted that, but it was a very old house, and it was pretty. There was some weird energies in there, and I thought I was going nuts because things would happen. Like the weirdest thing for me, and I've told people about this and it's given them goosebumps. I had a record player and I bought it new. I made sure the stylus was always, there's nothing wrong with the stylus. I took great care of my records, I still do.
Yep.
And in every time I listened to my records, they were fine. But there was a certain time of night and it was about 8:30.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so weird because you knew it was going to happen. Something would dick around with my record player to the point that it would pick a word and it would skip. And I know that records skip. And skeptics out there would say, it's bound to happen.
Yeah.
But this would only happen, like I could play that song, over and over and it wouldn't skip.
Yeah, billions of times.
Wouldn't skip. And it wasn't one record. It was always the same time and it was different records. But the creepiest was it was a Frank Sinatra record, and I was like, this is in the days where I was Little Miss Pin-Up, so I'd have doing my hair in my curlers, I was doing my nails, having a beautify session as I love to do.
Yep.
I had my Frank Sinatra record on, and it skipped. I got up to go to the kitchen to get a beer.
Yeah.
And as I'm walking through, I got this horrible, creepy feeling, and just sort of stopped in the hall and went, oh, something feels funny, I don't want to go through, because you had to go through the dining room, then down to the back of the house where the kitchen was. And I got a horrible feeling. I was like, that horrible threatened feeling. And then so I just went, just run through and grab it. So I ran through and grabbed it, and as I got back to level with the door that enters into the hall, which my bedroom is directly across from that doorway, the record started skipping, and it skipped on the words more and then. And with his accent, it sounded like more again, more again, more again, more again. And it skipped over and over again. I was like, so I was like, okay, it's just a coincidence. So I took the record off, left it at that. I was like, okay, you just got yourself spooked. So these little things were happening and I was disregarding, like repeatedly, things like that. Another one happened when I had a Marilyn Monroe album on, like a soundtrack, and it skipped on, one silver dollar, over and over again. Repeat. I'm like, okay. And every other time I played it never repeated, but it was the same time of night.
Yeah.
Always got the weird creak just before it happened, and then I was like, and then I'd always turn my record player off. But a friend witnessed it.
Yeah.
And they can vouch for me that these records had played perfectly fine, that track had played fine before.
Yeah.
It would pick a word. It wouldn't cut through half a word. It was always a word or like one silver dollar. It was like a clear message. So I was like, something's trying to talk to me here. And that used to freak me out.
Yeah.
So I still kept ignoring it. I'm like, you're being stupid. It's just the record player. Or it's just maybe there's dust on the records. Yes, it's weird it happens at the same time of night. Yes, it's weird, it's going to happen and it's very strange. Perhaps this is linked in with the whole being able to affect streetlight things. Maybe I can affect record players as well.
Wouldn't put it past you.
But what got creepier is when my friend Annie moved in.
Mm.
Now, I had heard hello in the house before, and I put it down to there was a house directly behind, so it was a subdivided property.
Yeah.
Our house was the old one at the front. They built a new one at the back.
Yep.
I put it down to the angle of the house, and that sound carried, and I quite regularly would hear, hello, or hello, and things like that, and just think, it's someone talking outside.
Yeah.
Okay. She moved in, and she was in the back room, and it was a couple of weeks after she moved in, she was rushing, because she had to get to work, and so she was running past my room, which is where all the creepy stuff happened to me, is in my room.
Yeah.
And she heard directly in her ear from my doorway, hurry.
Whoa.
In her ear. And then she said she didn't even think. She just grabbed her keys, she was out the door. And then when she told me about it, I'm like, I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah.
Should I hear hello all the time? And I always think it's someone else. Like, I just have been disregarding it. So there you go.
That's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. Yeah. So, another little haunted house.
Again, always worse when someone else confirms.
Yeah. Better and worse.
Better and worse.
Better and worse. But Annie, if you're listening to this episode, do you remember that? Do you remember? What a cheeky ghost.
Creepy.
And now it is time, my friends, to bid you farewell and say good evening to you all. Thank you for tuning in yet again for another episode, and I really appreciate you coming back for more. And please come back for more next week. Hopefully I'll continue to bring you weekly episodes. I'm do my absolute best. Be sure to like and comment and share and let me know how you're liking it. I'd love to hear what parts of the episodes you've enjoyed the most so I know what kind of material to put in the upcoming episodes. We've got an episode coming up about cryptids, cryptozoology, which is going to be pretty damn cool. I'm excited about that one. And yeah, and be sure to tell a friend. I'd love for you to spread the word. Anything to add, Jimmy?
And make sure you listen on Saturday in the morning for
ABC Radio.
Yeah, Morgan will be on the radio.
8:30, or between 8:30 and 9. You're just gonna have to commit half an hour for me. Sorry, folks. Can't give you the specifics. All right. Well, this is Morgan
And Jimmy.
saying good evening.
And good night.
Stay creepy. Bye.